VIP team?
Our team is here to meet you.
What? I know one person in the team. I'm never sure. Well, the great one.
So, Mr. Hinkis is our elder daughter. One of our candidates, Francisco. Another candidate, Mary Boyton, sister of Emma Boyton. So we have a season. She was my Mr. Polaris from Polaris Ranger. Right? Welcome to San Pedro.
A big welcome party.
Well, listen, we know you took out time from here. It's an honor to have you on the island. Their brother is the one that was studying that he did not go where the church is going to parade. He was retired.
With all his work.
With all his workers. Okay?
And I had
many of them, they covered their faces because they didn't want to. You know, when our country has come to that. Another one of our candidates, Donald, born and grew. Exactly. Yes. So, Audrey, you'll be staying at Grand Thursday, for sure.
The name sounds fun.
Yes, believe me. Yanira works there. And alright. And so we're going to drive up that way and get you settled in.
Cool, let me get my bag.
Well, good night, San Pedro, and we're back for another in the series of the VIP show. We say, check it, it's the correct thing to do. And tonight, as we announced the last few nights that we were here, we were going to have a special guest. You all know that the VIP is the only movement, political party that is looking out for the working class. We're concerned about the conditions that our working class have to live in. We're concerned about the low wages they have to endure. We're concerned about their health conditions and benefits. And so tonight, I am pleased to have with me a champion of the working class, a freedom fighter, a lady who is fighting for those without land, because every single one of us deserves to have a piece of land that we can build our house and what we can call our home, to raise our children in a safe, clean environment. And so, folks, without further ado, it is my pleasure, my honor, to have the one and only Lady Audrey Matura on the island of San Pedro, La Isla Bonita. Welcome, Audrey.
Thank you very much. By the way, I announced that I felt I was going to go into a boxing ring or to wrestle or something. You know? Well, you know, the tone and everything, but thank you for that vibrant welcome.
Audrey, I was speaking, as I mentioned to you, with council workers who earn $216 for a 6-day week. You cannot survive on this island on such a salary, Audrey. Most of these workers have $100 to $125 a week that they have to pay for a little room, no bathroom. They share a bathroom with 3 or 4 other rooms. They raise their family in a little room like this studio. This is bedroom, living room, dining room, and then they have to walk outside to a bathroom. But my concern, Audrey, is that we cannot continue to show this kind of disrespect to the working class. And so it has been the VIP's proposal to raise the minimum wage on this island, starting with the council when VIP takes office on March the 4th, to $7 an hour. That would be where every garbage collector, driver, street sweeper, whatever it is that you make, it won't be less than $7 an hour. But besides that, we need to have some job security so that no matter which party comes in or out, your job will never be affected. And one of the lies that continue to be told over and over, because we saw this in Belmopan, but thankfully the Belmopan had a union. And at that time, your previous union leader, he was there for years.
Mr. Antonio Gonzalez.
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez came to Belmopan because we requested it, the VIP, and we had a meeting with the council workers. And we assured them, and Mr. Gonzalez says that no political party can fire them. They belong to the union will fight for their rights. And this, I don't know a whole lot about unions. That's why I invited the president of the Christian Workers Union that has membership in the Belize City and Belmopan City Councils. And of course, we'll be championing under the new presidency of Ms. Matura to go through all the towns and unionize them. And that's what the VIP wants to do. Give the union, give the council workers that security. They don't have to be stressing themselves in a campaign, wondering who I win. I will lose my job. I have to pay my rent. I have to feed my family. No, guys. The VIP will never disrespect you and treat you like that. We're about creating jobs. We're about making the council even bigger and making sure that this island is kept the cleanest it can clean, because we're about a clean and safe island. So I want Audrey to explain to you all the council workers, but also the construction workers, the hospitality industry, those ladies who work so hard to keep those rooms so beautiful, those guys who do bartending and waitressing and maintenance work. Everybody in the hotel industry deserves to enjoy a part of the success, the prosperity of the tourism industry. And that's why Lady Matura is here tonight, Audrey, to explain to the viewers, the working class, and employers. I'm an employer, guys. Let's not be afraid. Listen, man. We're all in this together. I cannot produce my furniture if I don't have good workers and I don't pay them right. And let me tell you guys, in Belmopan, you work for Lopez Hummingbird for 5 years and you start to get the financing to build your home interest-free. And you know why? Because the Bible says you shall lend without usury. And so Hummingbird never charges any interest to its employees. And I want to call on the employers out here, let's start these housing programs. Make sure that your workers live in a decent environment and have a home that they can call and raise their home and raise their families. Come on, man, we can't continue down this road. Without further ado, Audrey, let's hear about the unions.
Well, thank you. I think there's a lot I can say about unions, but first, of all the municipalities throughout the country, only 2 have had their employees to become part of a union. That's Belize City Council. The employees there are part of the Christian Workers Union. And the Belmopan City Council, the employees there are part of the Christian Workers Union as well. And the ideal thing would be for us to be able to unionize every municipality for several reasons, especially the municipalities. You see, too often what happens when political parties change, the workers change. And that's really unjust. Because now you force workers in these politically oriented entities, because politicians run them, to have to choose loyalty over productivity and good work.
So meritocracy goes out the door.
Right, and it is counterproductive to the municipality itself, because you want to ensure that you keep some kind of certainty, some kind of stability and continuity in the work. So what we found, for example, like in Belize City, because we have those people unionized, they have definitely a large sense of security on the job. Of course, the top management is not part of the union, because top managers can't be part of the union, and they're the ones who try and play the political games. However, our workers are protected. For example, if you follow the news late last year, when the mayor, Mayor Bradley, was about to privatize the security officers' work, was going to Mr. Longsworth. What they wanted to do, they wanted the workers to leave a job that was paying them, I think it was like $3.69 an hour, to go to a job that would have been paying them to something an hour. It was powerless. And we at the union, we fought against that, and we said, no, there's absolutely no way that you will take our union members, put them out of a job, give them over to someone else because they will do the same thing, just someone private will be doing it. You're claiming that it is to save money, but yet you're not giving them a fair wage. And because of that, the union was able to intervene. We got the labor department to intervene. Those workers got the exact same salary they were getting before.
Right.
The other situation we had was with the BML workers. If anyone saw the news, they saw that the BML workers were privately contracted by BML, the company. And when City Hall was not able to pay for them, pay the contract to the employer, then they had a spontaneous protest. I would say they were incarcerated. I was their attorney then, and as a result of that, having learned their plight, then Christian Workers Union went and unionized the BML workers. But remember, one of the things was that the BML workers would have then become employees of the Belize City Council, because that's what the Prime Minister had promised after Mayoral said he wouldn't. Well, because we unionized them and we kept at it, and we said we will look after the interests of these workers, I must say that the Prime Minister word did come true, and so did Mayor Bradley, even if because they had to keep the promise after the fact, because the union was there, we weren't going to allow them not to do it. So 170 employees moved over to the council, and they're all members of the Christian Workers Union. So we have over 200 members there at the Belize City Council. So having laid that background, for you to understand the importance of the union, what people don't understand and appreciate is that joining a union is a constitutional right. It's not a favor. And so what I did, I brought the section so that people know, you need to know your constitution. Section 13 of the Constitution says, except with his own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. Freedom of association is when you join anything, boys Scouts, Girl Guides, Red Cross, any association, and a union falls under an association. That is to say, his right to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular to form and belong to trade unions or other associations for the protection of his interests, or to form or belong to political parties or other political associations. So the same way you can associate yourself with a political party. There's no one stops you once you're in the right party. The same way you can belong to a trade union. It's a constitutional right. And then there are exceptions, unfortunately, and some of the exceptions are where your essential service, like police, BDF, customs, immigration, those types of education. So basically, you're saying you can belong to a trade union. It's your right. However, there's an aspect of it that is not really good in the sense that under the Trade Union and Employers Organization Registration and Recognition Act, what I don't like about that is that while we say it is a constitutional right to belong to a trade union, there is a provision in the Act where when you belong to a trade union at a place of employment, that place of employment will only recognize a trade union if 51% of the employees say vote that they want the union. And what we find very challenging is that I think, one, that's unconstitutional, because you found a way to tie the hands of people. And what we have found in some instances when we have gone to try and unionize some entities is that the employer threatens them, plays games, fires them, promotes some of them, do all sorts of things. And so they break up the union. We've had places where we go where the people are powerless and it's more than 51%. And by the time we do the poll, then you have less than 51%. It's really sad, but it's true. However, I think at some point somebody has to challenge that law, because that law is not above the Constitution. The Constitution didn't put anything that says that somebody else has to recognize your union for it to be a recognized union that you belong to. It doesn't say that. It says you have the right to belong to a union, and if you have that right, it has to be that automatically that right is recognized. It shouldn't be that another party then has to validate your right. And I want someone to challenge that constitutionally, because I think it's wrong. Now, coming now to the council, we know that one of the reasons why you belong to a union is that while there are labor laws, your union literally is like your attorney. What I have found is that a lot of people call on me to try and help them as an attorney. But those are issues that if they had belonged to a union, they could have resolved without the need for an attorney. And the truth is, the people who call on you with these labor issues are very poor people, are menial workers, even middle-income workers, and you can't really afford legal services, but you shouldn't have the need to go to that had you belong to your union, because the union then has a system in place wherein you have union shop stewards or reps who must go there and look after your interests, and you escalate till you reach the top of your union. So you could be your immediate union rep in your organization.
Right.
Then it can go to your labor relations officer at your union. Then it can go to your general secretary and your president, and it can even reach the National Trade Union Congress, or it can go at the courts. So the benefit of belonging to a union is that on the job, with no need to have immediate money to pay for an attorney, you have legal representation. And when I say legal, it doesn't mean an attorney. It means that someone who has already trained by the trade union to represent workers' interests can then be present when the employer is making decisions against you for you, or investigating you, or having any meeting. So that's important for people to know. Okay. The other thing with the trade union is that when you belong to a trade union, one of the things that you can do is that trade union will bargain with the employer to get benefits for you above what the labor law prescribes. So maybe the labor law says you can have 16 sick days, but through your CBA, your collective bargaining agreement, you might get 21. Or it might say you're only entitled to 2 weeks vacation per year, but because your union negotiates, so you might end up with 4 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So there is a system in place. So the idea of the union is to ensure that your basic rights under the labor legislation are respected.
Okay.
But in addition to bargaining for better deals for you. And each one of those will vary according to the profession.
Right.
For example, like we represent stevedores at the Christian Workers Union. What we bargain for stevedores is different than what we bargain for our members that are from Central Bank. So the union then...
So you have membership at the Central Bank that
Yes.
belongs to your union, okay?
Yes, at the Christian Workers Union, we represent 11 entities. We represent the Grow of Workers at the CPBL, at the Social Company.
Okay.
We represent the Mayoral Council and the Belize Council. We represent workers at Social Security Board. We represent workers at the Central Bank, and the Central Bank is split into the staff in the administrative section and the security officers. We also represent a credit union, St. Martin's Credit Union in San Ignacio. We represent First Caribbean Bank. We also represent the stevedores at Port of Belize, and we represent Belize Port Authority workers.
Okay.
We represent workers at the SIB, Statistical Institute of Belize, and we represent workers at NICH as well. So we represent the widest cross-section because we are a Christian Workers Union, means that we are a union can represent in any area. But there are specialized unions, for example, the public service union are for people in public service. But for example, let's just say Belize Workers Energy Union, that's for people in the energy sector. There's Belize Workers Communication Union, these are people at retail. So those are most specialized unions, that they have smaller membership because they are only looking at one sector of the society. Because of the nature of our union, we are able to then represent a cross-section. Nothing specific, as you notice, we represent people that are quasi-government, as well as people who are in the private sector. Okay. And that's the beauty about the Christian Workers Union.
How would we approach, or what's the process of in this case, starting with the San Pedro Town Council workers, to organize and to prepare them to eventually join the Christian Workers Union? If you could explain what the process would be, so that we have a little clarity on that.
Okay, so the way it works is that it can work one of two ways. Okay. It could be that it is driven by the employees, where a group of employees come to the union and say, we want to be members. And the union will then write the employer and say, we understand that the employees want to be members, they have signed up as members, they are paying their dues. However, we then have to send a notice to the tripartite body in government. The tripartite body is a body that has one representative of the union, one representative of the employers and one representative of the government. And then they will come into the workplace and do a poll to make sure that 51% or more of the employees want to belong to a union. That's when it's driven by the workers. But in the case of BML, where the employer was not against unionizing, the employer invited us to the workplace.
Okay, so in this case, that the VIP that is what we want to do. We want that once we are in office, or when we are in office, we would like to give the council workers that security of tenure and the benefits of a union. So we can invite the union to come in.
We invite the union to come in.
And I would imagine that is the best way that to handle it, because then everybody's on board.
Right. So we go and we address the workers. The employer can't force anyone to belong to a union.
Okay.
Can encourage them, or say, if you listen to this yourselves and you decide if you want. That's what happened at BML. We went and we presented. And the workers, they said yes, they want to join, but they wanted to join because they saw how we had been able to help to an extent when they were locked up for that spontaneous protest.
Okay.
So once they did that, we then wrote the tripartite body to come and do the poll. We would have gotten 100% vote for it. However, before the tripartite, which they took so long, they haven't even come yet to do the poll. The workers have moved on to Belize City Council, which is already unionized, so they automatically become union members once they join there because they already indicated they wanted to.
Okay.
So that's one way, that's the other way to get it.
Okay, all right, on that note, we'll take a short break, folks. Once again, you're seeing the VIPs, what we call the check it, it's the correct thing to do. And tonight we have Audrey Matura in the studios, explaining the benefits, the process. When we come back, we'll speak a little more about the timeline. How long would this take, and the process, perhaps the membership fees, so that they understand. Again, we'll take a short break. Stay tuned for more exciting information. Remember, the VIP is the only one that brings you the issues, the solutions, and a way forward. Stay tuned.
Time for change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
My Belizean families, President Obama recently said that when you've been doing something for 50 years and it has not worked, it's time to try something new. For 50 years since self-government in 1964, we've been divided, conquered, ruled, and abused by two very corrupt parties. When 4 out of every 10 families live below the poverty line, more than 17,000 of our young people cannot find a job. It means our economic system is not working. It's time for a change. When young people are senselessly abused and imprisoned, single mothers and their children are living hard times because they can't collect child support. It means our justice system is a joke. It's time for a change. When the corrupt actions of our greedy politicians make us so desperate and fearful that we have to sell our votes to survive another day, it is time for a change. When families cannot afford to send their children to primary school, fewer can afford to go on to high school, and even less can go to college, our government has failed them. It's time for a change. When only the politically privileged are rewarded thousands of acres of prime land, while thousands of Belizeans are deprived a mere house lot, it is time for a change. This is the result of 50 years of false, empty promises. Belizeans, is this the future we want for our children for the next 50 years? We deserve better. On March the 4th, vote the VIP. Vote for change.
Time for cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
In the box, you see it's a mark. You could be a circle, an X if you want the X, but we think the X is so negative, man. Nobody ever used to like the X in school. It made you feel so bad. But when you saw the check mark, it's the correct thing. It was the correct answer. So we're saying on March the 4th, put the check mark on the VIP. It's the right thing to do. And again, we're here with Audrey, explaining the benefits of being part of a union, understanding that there is bargaining power. When you're collective, when you're in a group, you have collective bargaining power, where you can demand better benefits, bonuses, vacation, and everything that you deserve, folks. We're all in this together. This town cannot survive without those that pick up the garbage. Can you imagine? So they need to be treated with respect. You know, they tell me, oh, the ones in the office, they make lots of money, and we have to try and see how it scrape up. I'm telling you guys, it was council workers that raked this beach that inspired me to run again. When I was walking one morning on the beach, my exercise, and they said, "El es que hubiéramos votado." And I turned around and I said, "Yes?" He said, "Yes, man." And I said, "Guys, you know, I might just think about it." And of course I had to convince my wife, "Please, I want to run again. I planted the seed of change and I have to come back. There's work to do. We have people suffering. We're losing the environment, and we're back. We're nominated, and on election day you're gonna have a full slate. Good people, there's nothing you can knock about them. And I want to cry shame on those who are saying, oh, that the only thing that Mr. Bill Henkes could talk about is how clean he keeps his yard. I am proud. That's what you call civic pride. Everybody needs to have that civic pride in this country, because if we had the civic pride like Mr. Bill Henkes, this island would be a clean island. We would have never used garbage to fill our lots and fill the streets. Bill, keep it up. You are an inspiration, you are an example to the rest of this island of what San Pedro, La Isla Bonita should really look like. And on that note, Audrey, let's explain the timeline. I am going to write a letter on March the 5th to the Christian Workers Union as the next mayor of San Pedro, to the president of the Christian Workers Union, saying that I would like to unionize the council workers. How long would that take before I can say, yes, one of my first action plan promises is a reality?
Well, it really shouldn't take more than 3 months.
Okay.
But it could take less. Let me tell you how that would work. If we would receive such a letter, within days we would then plan to come to a meeting with the council workers to explain to them what it entails, because we want the workers to understand what are the rights they would have, what are the privileges, what are the fees that they would pay, what benefits come with it, what we mean by collective bargaining, all those things. I think they would have a lot of questions to understand.
So it could be a series of meetings?
It could, I think it can be done in one meeting.
Okay.
But if there's a need for a second one, you do that.
Okay.
The second one, most likely, would be to sign up people. From the first one, they can sign up. For example, we would have to explain to them their rights under the Constitution and under the Labor Acts, the Trade Union Acts, so that they know that these are the legal requirements, these are the things that can happen and can't happen. We'd ask them to join the union. Right now at the Christian Workers Union, our membership fee is $10 a month. But we're planning to increase it to $15. Why? $10 is used, combine everybody's $10, and we administer the office.
So you're looking at 50 cents a day
to
belong to the union. And remember, council workers, on March the 5th, your salary will be $7 an hour under a VIP council. $7 an hour is $63 for a 9-hour day. You're not allowed by law to work more than 9 hours, otherwise time and a half kicks in. Right, Audrey?
Right.
Okay, guys. I have been an employer for the last 31 years, folks. And so I can tell you those laws. I keep my labor book, right? And I enjoy when I see people say, Bobby Lopez to talk about the Constitution. I want every Belizean to get a Constitution, and I'm hoping that somehow in the council I can budget where we can start with our young people in high school, award them on their 18th birthday a Constitution so that they learn their rights. So the Constitution promotes unionizing.
Yes, it does.
So let's hear the rest of it. So there's an application form and
yes, we have an application form, and then once you agree, there's a form where you consent that the fees will come directly out of your salary, and the employer then sends it to our bank account. Okay. Now, the reason you pay a fee is that the union has to be able to work and administer, so we have our own office and our own administrators to look after your interests. Also, one of the things you said just now, that you would pay the workers $7 an hour. Right now, under the law, the minimum wage is $3.30 an hour. So when you get a bargaining unit, it's to convince the employer to pay the workers more, to give them more security.
You don't have to convince me, man.
Well, that's what I like about it. We would be able to prepare a very beautiful collective bargaining agreement. Like we try and get better maternity benefits, better sick benefits, better overtime benefits, better vacation grant, better. We make sure that you get all the equipment and gears you need, like the street workers, the garbage workers, the protective gears that they need.
Right.
There's a lot you can ask for in your CBA, your collective bargaining agreement. Those are the things we have here when the employer says we will pay you more. Now remember, by law, they don't have to pay, they don't have to get paid more. So the way you would secure these workers while you are in office, you would sign on to what we call a collective bargaining agreement. So it doesn't matter which government comes afterwards,
That's
it cannot undo that agreement. You have to then comply with it. Let me tell you what's important. The mayor of Belize City, Mayor Bradley, along with mayors throughout, came up with an idea to do what they call right here, this document they prepared, municipal service regulation. It was just regulations as to how to regulate the employment of the workers in the municipalities.
Right, because the Town Council Act.
But it basically says that this is the same basic law that is in the labor laws. Nothing more is given to them.
Okay.
Except that maybe they're trying to say you shouldn't fire people that easily, right? Which is one of the concerns because of it being a municipality, you know, in each election certain people get fired. But this never became law. They were to sign it through a statutory instrument.
Right.
I hear all the mayors were in agreement, but cabinet said no. So this has no way. But even if this regulation would have passed, we would have still wanted to unionize all municipalities so that they get benefits above what's in here. And a security of job that is above in here.
Right.
This wasn't passed, so all the more reason each municipality should join a union. I know in Southern Belize we have Southern Workers Union that can take care of the unions, the southern part of the country, the municipalities. But whichever other part we have, the Christian Workers Union, we don't mind doing it. We see a lot of benefit in it. Another thing people need to understand, when you join a union and you're paying your fees, you're preparing for bad days, you know, because I've seen people that have had to pay me legal services for some of the entities we represent because they are not a member of the union. But if you're a member of the union, you get a letter of dismissal. You go to your union and say, see, they dismissed me. But then at the CBA, you can't just dismiss anyone. The CBA usually gives a procedure that you have to follow before you dismiss someone. Right. So if you don't follow the procedure under the collective bargaining agreement, the union then moves in to go and help that worker. You don't have to go pay for an attorney because our union officials are trained people in labor law and how to negotiate these things. So that's one benefit. Now you have asked how long it will take. So once we get people to sign up,
We'll have the letter on March 5th.
Right, March 5th when we get that letter. I don't know, is that a Monday, March 5th?
That would be a Thursday.
A Thursday.
Because the 4th is a Wednesday.
Okay, so by the 6th we will respond.
Okay.
And I'm sure by the 9th we're here for our meeting.
Okay.
So then, once they begin paying as union members, the tripartite body, we write the tripartite body and say, these are the people who are paying members of the union. These are people who have showed interest in the union. Tripartite body will actually come to your council and have a meeting and literally do a vote to see if more than 51% of the employees agree to be members of the union.
Right.
Once they have that, then we get a certificate from the tripartite body given to CW saying you are the legitimate, legally recognized bargaining unit for the workers of the San Pedro Town Council. There are different ways to form unions. So one of the things, San Pedro is one of the only places throughout the country there's no union representation.
Wow.
Zero. But yet you all have people in the tourism sector.
Huge, thousands.
You all have casual workers, especially because they're only seasonal. That's what we call casual workers.
Right.
You have people who are they're in the construction, but they also have people who are in the food sector.
A huge food sector. Yes.
You know, there's these different things that support the tourism industry and no unionizing. I understand a lot of these people are hired and fired at the women fan self-employers.
Tell me something. We have a situation out here on this island where there's a high season and a slow season. You speak to people and they say the slow season, well, they get laid off, they have to see how they survive, and the high season comes and then they pull them back on. How would the union operate in bringing some stability to the employment of these people? Because these people have loans, they have children in school, you know, and we were talking to a lady last night that said her employer already told her that the bookings for March don't look too good, and when they fall below a certain percentage of occupancy, they lay off a certain amount of workers. You can't do that. People need to eat. People have bills to pay.
Well, I have the answer for you for that.
Okay.
Christian Workers Union represents all sorts of workplaces. But there's one set of people we represent that do not belong to a workplace, but belong to a craft or occupation, and that's the stevedores.
Okay.
So anybody in the hospitality industry would fall under that, what we call a craft or occupation union. So that means, it would, let's say we say all, what they would call the housekeepers.
Housekeepers.
Housekeepers at the hotel. So let's say we have all housekeepers we represent. It doesn't matter which hotel you work with. It matters that you belong to a union that represents your craft or your occupation. And what do you do then? You set the standards. Because remember, now you would bargain to get standards for these people. What would be their minimum wage? What would be the conditions? What happens during slow season and high season? How you will deal with that. Now, I can give an example with the stevedores. Stevedores don't work every day of the week. We have...
And let's explain to the audience stevedores so that they understand.
Stevedores are the men who work at the ports, when the Belize City's port. They load and unload the containers that bring in shipment.
They also work for the sugar.
Any material that is brought into this country, on those huge containers, these men help unload it. Anything that is exported out of the country, like sugar, these people load it onto the vessel that will take it.
Right.
So they're stevedores, but they're not employed by the port. That's not their employer. They provide a service to that entity, and so they are members of our union, and we regulate what they do.
Okay.
And how they do it. So for example, we work out what are their minimum salaries. We work out the rotation system, how they work. We will work out how you deal with substitute when one is missing. We work out what are the health conditions for them. We work out that they get food on the job. We work out the amount of hours they can work, because they work more than 8 hours.
Right.
And sometimes they do full 12-hour shift.
Wow.
So we have a system. But why is that possible? Because the Christian Workers Union started as a union that represented only stevedores.
I was going to ask that. I remember years ago, it was just the stevedores that had that union. Okay.
Right. So what we did, we are representing stevedores. So stevedores anywhere in Belize can join our union, you know.
Okay.
Because we set the standard for them. So what would happen in San Pedro,
For the
housekeepers in no matter where you work can then come and join the union. And if any employer doesn't want to recruit, and what you need to do is that you need to make a rule, what we say like close shop, where you can only work in that field if you belong to the union. Why are you doing it? You're doing it to protect yourself. Because if you break wrong, so you're a housekeeper, I'm a housekeeper, and we're all trying to stick together so that we get better benefits, but then you decide, well, I'm going to work for them for the little they give, and then you're breaking us up. Right. So we want to reach a point where, depending on your occupation, we unionize you to get the best benefit for everyone. Right. And then it has to be that once that employer employs you as a housekeeper, they have to recognize you that you come through the union. If you come on your own, they can do anything you want, and that will break up the union. Why do you need that? You're talking about these casual workers that they, when no season, they're put off. There's 2 ways to solve that. Either during high season you pay them enough money to hold them over during the slow season, or you have a set rate to pay them when it's high season, and low season there's a minimum they get once you know they're engaged to continue. Right. There are different ways to bargain. The thing is, what you have to think, in San Pedro, which is very much different from the rest of the country, the cost of living here is high.
It's at least
so $3.30 an hour, I agree, you cannot maintain people. And this seasonal work, where when it's good, you still only get $3.30 an hour, and when it's bad, you don't get anything, cannot continue, because the backbone of the economy are the workers. Right. And that is why I like working with the union, and I like talking about economic realities that we're facing. Unions aren't here to put the employer in a grave. Unions are here to work with the employer, because the employers have to recognize that without the labor of the employee, you wouldn't have an industry. You would, and if you have high turnover, then you won't have a good business. But for too often, people want to see like it's a fight. It's not a fight. And you have to remember what happens, especially in the tourism sector. A lot of the investors take out a lot of the money out of the country. We to make sure that more money comes in the country, because remember, every time any government gives these foreign investors concessions, and all these foreign investors get privileges, it's because they tell us, the working class, that, oh, we are allowing that because they will give you work. Then the very work we're to get, we don't really have security in.
Right.
It's a double standard. So it has to be that you have investors that recognize that you have to give the employees a minimum wage, a minimum standard, beyond certain benefits and treatment beyond the labor law.
Right.
I blame our labor law for many things because it could be better. I know it can be better, but that is why you join a union, so it bargains for you to get something better. And I see a lot of room in San Pedro for dealing with protecting the rights of employees.
Right.
That is why I like when you invited me to your show. I mean,
By the way, folks,
I never knew you did a show, but
I want you all to understand, guys. We had, of course, when we started this series, an environmentalist, because that was our platform, the environment. And you all saw Dr. Tellez via Skype, 5 o'clock in the morning in California, telling you about the environment. We had a craft person in here because the VIP is prepared to take on the plight of the handicraft industry and to raise the standard and the presentation and the dignity of the handicraft industry, without which you can't have a thriving tourism industry. We had a science teacher in here also explaining a little about, so I wrote to the Christian Workers Union, I told you all that a week ago, and I said, we want to unionize the workers because there's another lie, because they did it in Belmopan. When the VIP take over, they are fire all uno. And you see, I ran because of the council workers. It's they that inspired me. Mr. Bobby, please come back, please. Don't give up. And I wrote the president of the Christian Workers Union and I said, would you kindly come and explain the benefits? And why is it's good for us to start off by joining a union, because I want your job to be secure. That it doesn't matter which party takes office in the council, your job will always be secure. Another thing, Audrey, that I wanted to talk to you about. There's this intimidation where workers have to put on a political party shirt, otherwise they're going to get fired, and they have to parade in the political thing. You see, what does the union have to say on that kind of thing?
You see, if you belong to a union, they can't force you to do that, because I'm glad you brought it up. I just flipped to the page I wanted to show you. So there's a constitution, and that's supreme, and below the constitution there's a trade unions and employers organization registration, recognition and status act, chapter 304 of the laws of Belize. And in section 4 it says, subject to subsection 13 of the Belize constitution, every employee shall have and be entitled to enjoy the basic rights specified below. What are those basic rights?
Association.
The basic rights referred to in subsection 1 are taking part in the formation of a trade union. That's a right. Help to form your own trade union. Freely deciding whether to be a member of a trade union or federation or of trade unions. 3, taking part in any lawful trade union activities. It doesn't say political activities.
Right.
Holding office in any trade union or a federation of trade unions. 5, taking part in the election of any union representative, shop steward, or safety representative, or offering himself as a candidate in such election for the trade union. 6, acting in the capacity of a union representative, shop steward, or safety representative if elected as such. And 7, exercising any other right conferred on employees by the act or regulations made hereunder, under the Constitution of Belize, or any other law governing labor relations and employment relations, assisting employees, unions, or whatever. Why do we read all of that? That's the right we have to be in a part of a union. It doesn't say that in all these freedoms you have, one of them that they can impose on you is that you must belong or jump up with a political party. Now, if you belong to a union and you go and you tell your union representative that this is what they're doing to you, there's a process always in the collective bargaining agreement that is called a grievance process, where once a complaint is made against an employer, the union gets into action and there are certain things you do to protect the employee's rights. If it is proven that the employer did do that to you, that is basis for them to quickly apologize or remedy whatever, or you take them to court, because that is then called discrimination.
Right.
If you're being threatened that if you don't do that you will lose your job, then it means that your freedom to associate with the party of your choice is being denied,
Violated, yeah.
and you are being discriminated based on your political choice, and your political choice does not necessarily mean party politics. It may be that you just don't want to participate in any party political activity.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't like the party. It doesn't mean that because you have a job, because you work there and the council is of a particular political leaning that you have to go along.
Right.
Because your independence as a worker, as long as you do your job effectively, should not matter who is elected in office. It could be red, green, purple, any color you want. It shouldn't interfere. And so the thing would then be that it would definitely curtail what is being done when council workers are being forced to go. As a matter of fact, in the CBA, it can be made clear that no council worker should be called out on nomination day any day for political whatever patronage days, or to go out and show support for that particular party. As a matter of fact, it would be more beneficial for them to remain neutral, because no matter which party wins, they have to work with them.
Exactly.
But when you, the employee, play the political game, well, then you lose your job. But if you unionize, I think it would raise the standard of professionalism, and we would get rid of that culture of political patronage, where people are forced now to support because they want to keep their job. You may still want to support that party, because you have that freedom,
right.
But it won't be under duress, it won't be under force. It will be basically, I want to support, so I support.
Right. Okay. Well, there you have it, folks. And on that note, we'll take a short break, play a few more messages from the VIP. Remember, this is the VIP Check It show. The right thing to do on March 4th is to put that check mark on the VIP for change, for real change. We'll be back.
Time for cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
My Belizean families, President Obama recently said that when you've been doing something for 50 years and it has not worked, it's time to try something new. For 50 years since self-government in 1964, we've been divided, conquered, ruled, and abused by two very corrupt parties. When 4 out of every 10 families live below the poverty line, more than 17,000 of our young people cannot find a job, it means our economic system is not working. It's time for a change. When young people are senselessly abused and imprisoned, single mothers and their children are living hard times because they can't collect child support, it means our justice system is a joke. It's time for a change. When the corrupt actions of our greedy politicians make us so desperate and fearful that we have to sell our votes to survive another day, it is time for a change. When families cannot afford to send their children to primary school, fewer can afford to go on to high school, and even less can go to college, our government has failed them. It's time for a change. When only the politically privileged are rewarded thousands of acres of prime land, while thousands of Belizeans are deprived a mere house lot, it is time for a change. This is the result of 50 years of false, empty promises. Belizeans, is this the future we want for our children for the next 50 years? We deserve better. On March the 4th, vote the VIP. Vote for change.
Time for cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
And good night again, folks. If you're just joining us tonight in another of the series of the VIP show, Check It, it's the right thing to do. We have in studios Audrey Matura, the president of the Christian Workers Union, explaining the benefits of unionizing under her, or any union for that matter. I invited her because the members of the workers of the Belize City and Belmopan councils belong to the Christian Workers Union. And as your next mayor, on March the 5th, the day after when I take office, the union shall have a letter inviting them to come out. And your first hour on March the 5th will be at $7 an hour, guys. I guarantee you that. And so as we wrap up this show, you've heard the timeline, within 3 months or less. We had a call just now about somebody wanting to know what the VIP feels about the rosewood industry. I will tell you that we have been down to PG as a group. We have been championing the cause of keeping our natural resources here in the country and adding value to it. That's what we need to do with all our woods. Quit exporting. I have told the UDP Minister of Natural Resources, I have told the PUP Minister of Natural Resources over the past 28 years. Remember guys, I use wood, and not even me could buy rosewood. I can't find one board foot of rosewood to buy because the UDP has allowed our forest to be slaughtered, and all of that wood exported. And of course you saw the minister that just set a whole heap on fire when all of us could have used a little of that wood to make carvings, to make furniture, but she decided to light it up. That was such a sad day in this country to see a minister burning thousands of feet of rosewood. The VIP is not about destroying our natural resources. We're about wisely using it so that we will have it for generations to come. If you cut down everything, then what is the next generation going to have? And so, just to answer the caller that called, folks, the VIP is about the working class. We are concerned about those, and it's the majority, especially those of us who came to this island to be a part of the industry, to be a part of the success of this island, but those of you who are not sharing in the success. We all have to be enjoying a part of this success. And so, being a part of the union, guys, employer as well as employee, it's a relationship of harmony. It's a win-win relationship. Audrey, closing remarks as we wind down our show tonight.
Well, closing remarks, I didn't get to read all the things that
an
employer can't do.
Okay.
Because one of the things we find is that, yes, you want to join a union, but your employer will find ways to pressure you. Well, I want you to know that it's illegal if your employer tries to pressure you, and I will read what the things they can do. But what is important is if your employer tries to pressure you against joining a union or because of joining a union, you need to be prepared to record that information or testify against him or bring it out because it's illegal. And it says here, the employer cannot require an employee to give up the right to join a union in return for a job. So you want to keep your job?
Yeah.
When you can't join a union, they can't, that's illegal.
That's illegal.
They can't discriminate against you because they think you want to start forming a union. Once you can prove it, it's illegal. And there's a case that was recently won, the Christine Perry case against BKL, showed you that if an employer tries to do that, you can actually get financial compensation. Of course, you have to go through the whole system. The other thing is they cannot discriminate or do anything prejudicial against you, including discipline you, dismiss you, or refuse your employment because you've expressed your interest in a union or you are a member of a union. Or they can't threaten any employee or person seeking employment with any disadvantage merely by the fact that they belong to a union. So let's say we unionize all the women that are the housekeepers in the hotels.
Right.
It can't be that these people are excluded from having a job because they say in their form that they belong to a union. It should not be. It would be just like if they discriminate against you based on your religion. And that's why it would be good if anyone who wants to be a housekeeper, unionize yourself first. Come through the union, then we have to place you in the job in the workforce so that then you know you get that protection through us. You can't also promise any employee or person seeking employment any special benefit or advantage in return for them giving up their right to belong to a union. So they entice you. If they entice you and you take it, that's your fault. Because you then are selling out your right. Or they can't restrain or seek to restrain any employee or other person seeking employment through a contract of employment or otherwise from exercising any rights conferred or recognized under this act. Because what we are finding at Christian Workers Union, what some of the entities are trying to do to break the union is instead of having full-time employees, no, they only put them on contract for a year. And then on the contract for a year, they don't want you to be a member of the union, because that's the way to try and break the union. So it's very serious. So having said all of that, people clearly, it's your constitutional right to belong to a union. A union protects your employment, your tenure of employment. It fights for better benefits beyond the basic rights that you already have under the Labor Act, and is there for you in times of trouble. Now, you don't know when trouble will come. And why is it important for us as workers to join forces? It's important because our political leaders decide how to spend our money. But all the money that you get, that you pay taxes for, it's your money. And so when they spend that money and make decisions against your interests and your country, how else will you have a voice if not through a political party, which makes you lose credibility many times? It's because you join a union, and like the union, Christian Workers Union is a member of the National Trade Union Congress. That's a pressure group that can pressure against some of the financial decisions the government has. That is why the National Trade Union Congress has a senator in the Senate, has a member on the Social Security Board, has a member now on the Immigration Vetting Committee, and a number of places. So it's your right. So then you belong to a bigger group. And when we need to pressure any government, it doesn't matter which one wins, even if it's VIP that wins.
When we win.
It has to be that us, the people, through a non-political partisan entity, can pressure for change. The reason right now we get these governments that are so corrupt is that they found ways to break unions, they found ways to infiltrate unions, and the unions, I can't even say that 50% of the workforce is unionized in Belize. On the contrary, I don't have the figure, but I can tell you it's not 50%.
Right.
Because when I look at the membership of our union, through the BNTU, we might have a couple thousand, and PS students are the two largest because it's government and the teachers. And the other unions, like my union, is not even 1,000 yet. And the smaller unions are about 100. So when you put those people together, that does not represent about 100 and something thousand people are employed. So that means we're less than 50%, and I dare say maybe only about 25% of the workforce is unionized. And then if we don't have the majority unionized, how will we pressure against those unlawful contracts? How will we pressure against those decisions as to how to take money, campaign financing, Metro Career money, how to spend, how to violate our finance act? Why does the worker entity have to do it? Because it's our money. If we don't work, this economy doesn't move. And so I want people to see unionism beyond just, oh, I want to get on salary raise. I want you to see that you're part of your involvement in the social and civic development of this country.
Right.
Because then they can't say, oh, because you're at PUP and you're at VIP and you're at UDP, you do that. No, because I am from the union. That's why I think one of the biggest blessings I had was to be able to join the union, and from that standpoint, fight for the working class. And that's what we need. We need to fight for better benefits for them, because you, the working class, you're as entitled to a comfortable life like anybody in the upper class.
Right.
If we have equity, if we have fairness in employment and benefits, you will have a more harmonious country. Because you don't have no need to be fighting someone else just to get that slice of bread. And so I want people to see that way. And I would hope that the people in San Pedro would support our efforts to unionize not only the council workers, but any industry. Any industry, let's unionize, because yes, you want the investment to come, and yes, tourism is big, and tourism, all kind of thing about tourism, but what about the benefit of the people who make the tourism industry grind that machine?
Exactly.
So those will be my parting shots, and I hope that people will see the wisdom in learning about the union. You can go to BelizeLaw.org, download the Trade Union Act, the Labor Act, and the Employers Organization Recognition and Status Act. The laws are right there for you to read. But if not, you need to just contact any one of the unions. We have the National Trade Union Congress that would be willing anytime to go anywhere in the country and make presentations so that people understand their rights, and Christian Workers Union will do the same. We want employees to know that you are not helpless. Your labor makes you powerful, more powerful than you recognize.
Well, on that note, you heard it from the president of the Christian Workers Union. I call her Lady Audrey Matura, a freedom fighter, a champion of the working class, of the cane farmers, of the landless people of Belize. And that's another serious situation we have out here, Audrey. You know, it is said approximately 65% of the voting population and what's happening on San Pedro, but they're not benefiting, they're not enjoying that success, they're not living in conditions where they can say, yes, I feel a part. You know, when you can serve a tourist at a restaurant and then you can invite that same tourist to come to your home because you live in a nice environment with a nice little home, whatever it is, that is what you're supposed to do. You make friends with that tourist and you can invite them to where you live and you can be proud because where you live is a beautiful place. The environment is clean, but not the way it is right now. Folks, only the VIP will deliver a better quality of life for the working class. I am telling you, I lived the beginnings of Belmopan. I know what it was like to move into a city that there were so many empty houses, you could pick whichever house you wanted. It was clean, it had drainage, it had streets, it had schools, hospital, police station, everything. I'm telling you, that is my dream, that is my vision, to see a beautiful community up north where the highland, and instead of giving party cronies 5 and 10 and 25 and even 50 acres, let me tell you, you can get 8 lots out of an acre. 50 by 75, you can get 8. So when they give a political crony 25 acres, they deprived 200 working class people of a lot that you didn't have to fill with garbage because it was high land. You can plant vegetable gardens here. There's black soil on this island that is so rich that you can enjoy a healthy quality of life. I envision up north a beautiful community. We will build it and then we will say, come guys, let's get out of that garbage, let's get out of that swamp, and let's enjoy being a part of the success of this island. Only the VIP is going to fight for you. Single mothers, grandmothers, everybody on this island on March the 4th. Check it. It's the correct thing to do under VIP, the full 7 under my leadership. And I promised you already, guys, I don't want a penny out of the town council because it's your hard-earned money. And guess what? The law says it is not a place of emolument and profit unless the mayor and the council decide. I want to serve you. On March 4th, make the right choice. Vote for change. On that note, I say God bless you all. Thank you, Audrey, for coming out to enlighten us. There's so much I learned about the unions, and I can't wait for March 5th. Because if you don't do it on March 4th, you're going to suffer for another 3 years. Alright? And then I don't want to hear you say, Mr. Bobby, I should have voted for you. Because guess what, guys? I can't do nothing for you after March 4th. You're on your own. On that note, we say God bless you all. Make the right choice. Check it.
Time for a cool change. I know that it's time for a cool change.
My Belizean families, President Obama recently said that when you've been doing something for 50 years and it has not worked, it's time to try something new. For 50 years since self-government in 1964, we've been divided, conquered, ruled, and abused by 2 very corrupt parties. When 4 out of every 10 families live below the poverty line, more than 17,000 of our young people cannot find a job, it means our economic system is not working. It's time for a change. When young people are senselessly abused and imprisoned, single mothers and their children are living hard times because they can't collect child support, it means our justice system is a joke. It's time for a change. When the corrupt actions of our greedy politicians make us so desperate and fearful that we have to sell our votes to survive another day, it is time for a change. When families cannot afford to send their children to primary school, fewer can afford to go on to high school, and even less can go to college, our government has failed them. It's time for a change. When only the politically privileged are rewarded thousands of acres of prime land, while thousands of Belizeans are deprived a mere house lot, it is time for a change. This is the result of 50 years of false, empty promises. Belizeans, is this the future we want for our children for the next 50 years? We deserve better. On March the 4th, vote the VIP. Vote for change.
for a cool change. I know that it's time for a cool